And for more perspective on the hearings, we are joined by NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder, who is also a former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Tracy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
And Tracy, notably, I know you were actually detailed to the same agency as David Grush for a time. Let's take a quick listen to some of his testimony together.
It was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank.
Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes. Personally.
So first of all, Tracy, I have to ask, did you hear anything while at this agency about UAPs? And then secondly, based on your experience working in the government and federal law enforcement, do you think this is something the U.S., the government is capable of keeping quiet for so long?
So first of all, no, I did not work in the UAP program, although, yes, I was detailed to the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. However, I was working our counterterrorism efforts there. And as I'm sure people can imagine, things are pretty compartmented, right? Grush wouldn't have necessarily known what I was doing, and I wouldn't have known what he was doing. So really, I can't speak to the work he was doing. Now, look, I've been to Area 51 before, but I think in terms of the testimony that I saw, to me, the most impactful was actually the testimony of the two lieutenants, Graves and Fravor. And it's not to dismiss Grush's claims. I give a lot of credit to Grush's claims, but a lot of it was secondhand information, whereas those two lieutenants really had a lot of firsthand information, and I thought that that was fascinating.
You know, as you mentioned, one of the other witnesses, specifically retired Navy Commander David Fravor, he talked about the threat that these flying objects could pose. Let's take a quick listen to that.
You believe UAPs pose a potential threat to our national security?
Yes, and here's why. The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had. If you had one, you captured one, you reverse engineered it, you got it to work, you're talking something that can go into space, go someplace, drop down in a matter of seconds, do whatever it wants, and leave, and there's nothing we can do about it.
So if his statement is proven true, exactly what kind of threat could they pose? And also, I would love to know what was on your mind. Were you concerned about tech and national security as you were listening to these testimonies?
So I was, but like I said, particularly when I listened to Graves and Fravor. So I was the first female working on the armed drone program, and I saw firsthand what our capabilities were in other countries, particularly Afghanistan, with just our drones. And so it's very concerning to me when we have UAPs in space and we don't have a full understanding of what their capabilities are, and perhaps we have the shells of some of these and are not reverse engineering them, we can't defend against them. And I think that is the essential issue here. You know, it's not whether or not, you know, Martians are here and UFOs are here, but it's about what is the threat to the American people. And if we don't know what these things are and what their capabilities are, we are putting people at risk, because I've flown drones and I've seen what they can do, just our own. I don't know what UAPs could do.
Yeah. And Evan Moon was just talking about that top Pentagon official now, calling the testimonies insulting to government employees and workers. Also, that one of the testifiers has not cooperated with the government investigation. What is your take on this criticism?
It's hard. I see both sides, right? I'm a former government employee. And so the reality is look, we do sign NDAs and we do not want to reveal classified information that we're not supposed to, because it can put our colleagues at risk. And I see both sides of this. But at the same time, you know, there is no central reporting of UAPs. The FAA doesn't have that capability. And I think it's something that we need to think about becoming more public and maybe not viewing this as sort of a fringe belief if we talk about it a bit more. So I absolutely see where the Pentagon is coming from, because they were tasked with doing this with an all-domain anomaly research office, that's a mouthful, to do something like this last year. And I feel like they probably think they haven't been able to investigate that thoroughly in its scope, and that's why they feel insulted, which I understand.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.